Okay, it's now the top of the hour, so let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to today's webinar. Today we're going to be talking about color theory and strategy for your law firm website. So thanks for taking the time to join us today. Just a few housekeeping matters before we get started. This webinar is being recorded and will be sent to you via email shortly afterwards, so there's no need to take notes unless you'd like to do so. And in the event that you're having any issues with the audio or visual components of the webinar, please use the raised hand feature in the GoToWebinar control panel, or you can type us a message and I'll try to get that resolved for you as quickly as possible. So my name is Drew Mancini and I'm the Digital Marketing Manager here at Lawlytics. I have a background as a marketing consultant for solos and small law firms in digital marketing practices as well as branding. And now I really just continue to enjoy helping to make marketing more accessible and enjoyable for attorneys by creating resources that work to demystify successful marketing practices. So again, today we're talking about color theory, and color theory helps us understand how people perceive colors and the message colors can convey. But why does all of this matter for your law firm's website? Color has the capability to impact how your potential clients both think and behave, and it's important to take a look at what your website's colors are communicating to your web visitors. Every time you interact with a potential client through your digital presence, you have an opportunity to impact their perception of your firm. So through thoughtful design and color choice, your website can better connect with potential clients to convert them into paying clients. So in today's webinar, we're going to be discussing why brand personality is important to the functionality of your firm's website, the benefits of color in consumer psychology, color theory for common colors, and some tips for making cohesive design choices with color. So before we get into color theory, I think it's important to first understand brand personality. I want to talk about what it is and why you need one, and how those two ideas of color theory and brand personality ultimately intersect. So when I think of brand personality, my mind always goes back to the same example of when I saw an ad on a billboard that read, "The beer you want to have a beer with," next to a photo of a Miller Lite can. Those were the only two things on the billboard, just that saying and the Miller Lite can. But without it saying much or even being logical at the end of the day, I was able to associate drinking a Miller Lite with feelings of familiarity, ease, and fun. And this billboard is a great lesson in the power of brand personality. And for yourself as an attorney and a small law firm owner, it's important to think how you can or how your website can quickly evoke positive emotions and turn potential clients into paying clients. And a lot of that is going to tie into what your firm's brand personality is and how you choose to portray it through your firm's website. So, to briefly review what a brand personality is, it's the set of characteristics that you attribute to that brand. So for a typical business, this is curated to give sort of a humanistic quality to the brand that will help the consumer connect with the brand emotionally, similar to how I genuinely emotionally connect with the Miller Lite can on the billboard. But for lawyers, the goal of a brand personality is just a little bit more specific, and that's to communicate who you are and who you serve to your potential clients. So through your firm's website, your brand personality should connect potential clients with your practice emotionally and then be able to quickly foster the trust and confidence that is necessary to convert them into a paying client. Ultimately, without a strong brand personality, your website's going to have to work harder to evoke those same emotions for your potential clients, and you might be less consistent in targeting your ideal client, which I know isn't aligned with your digital marketing goals overall. One great starting point for developing your brand personality is your own starting point as a lawyer. And by that, I mean looking at why it was you became a lawyer in the first place. You want to ask yourself, why did you choose your practice area? Or maybe ask yourself, what are your goals for your clients? This also goes for your values as an attorney and as a person. By outlining your values, you can better understand what your ideal client values and then foster a cohesive messaging between those two. Next, you'll want to consider the preferences of your ideal client as well as their behaviors and expectations. So these are what make up your client persona, which ends up guiding a lot more of your marketing efforts than just simply your branding personality. So if you're not sure what a client persona is or you don't yet have one, these are the imagined persona or personas that you've assigned to your ideal client. So those personas can help attorneys narrow their audience and help you address things like what questions does this particular demographic ask, or what is the best way to convey that information to them. And ultimately, personas can ensure that you have clarity about who you're speaking to. And the more you understand your ideal client, the easier it's going to be to solidify your brand personality and then apply that to your marketing. Last, I just want to briefly touch on a common mistake attorneys tend to make when they are building their brand personality, and that is when they get distracted by attorneys that inspire them or just simply the competition that is performing well when you're making those decisions about brand personality. Because more often than not, it's really easy to let yourself get distracted but by what seems to be quote unquote working, because your goal is of course to consistently target your ideal client online. It is going to be hard to not look to those around you for branding cues. However, the issue is that it's not going to serve your firm long term to make design decisions based on those trends rather than your truth. And nailing a brand personality that feels true to yourself and your firm is going to be the best use of your time in the long term. In all your future marketing decisions or website design refreshes, you're going to be able to easily revisit your brand plan to help guide your choices in those instances. This also helps you deliver consistent messaging to potential clients across multiple touch points that quickly build the trust and confidence that you need to make their decision to hire you. Now that we reviewed a bit of brand personality for your law firm, let's go ahead and pivot over to color theory and how it's connected to consumer psychology and how that is relevant to your practice. So it's important to approach color choices thoughtfully while you're in the design process for your website. Color choice is just one of the ways your website can effectively target and convert your ideal client, but it's also one of the main design elements of your website. Color can also emphasize multiple aspects of your website's design, such as its ability to evoke emotion, maintain logical order, and attract attention to your calls to action. So because color has such a strong ability to enhance certain emotions, it can be very important to the first impression of your website. So those feelings such as excitement, anxiety, and relaxation are all common emotions that can be affected by color choice. So when you're making design decisions about for your website, it's important to consider the response your potential clients might have to those color choices, and if this makes sense for your messaging and even makes sense for your practice areas. So for example, this is where your firm's brand personality might come into play. Like I mentioned just a few slides back, establishing a strong brand personality early on in your firm's branding journey is going to help you with a lot of your decisions for your firm moving forward. So say you're a family law practice who establish themselves as the folks who like to play hardball, and you're willing to fight for those clients who need a more aggressive representation for their legal matter. When you think of designing your website, color is going to play a pretty significant role in how a potential client feels when visiting your website if they're looking for that bulldog lawyer, quote unquote, to speak, or so to speak. And because of this, maybe you would lean into color choices that are bolder and maybe a little bit more attention grabby. So maybe those are reds and oranges, and you might use accent colors such as black. The next part of using color theory in consumer psychology is the relationship between color and logic order. The color choices for your firm's website can work to deliver a harmonious, boring, or chaotic experience for your visitors. So when the visual experience is too bland, the visitor might struggle to engage with your content. But at the other extreme, your website's visual experience can be too stimulating and feel chaotic and off-putting. So to strike that harmonious balance, It's important to follow logical structure for your color choices that deliver a sense of order while still remaining visually interesting. And an easy example of this is to simply follow a color palette for your website. There are certain color combinations that work more harmoniously than others, and it can be helpful to stick to a color palette that fits with your intended firm branding and messaging to help make those design choices a little bit easier for yourself. You can also improve the engagement on your website simply by providing a more positive visual experience. So while it's true that your potential clients aren't visiting your website in pursuit of this grand entertainment, creating a pleasant and streamlined visual experience for your web visitors will improve the likelihood of your potential clients staying on your website for longer and thus increasing the chances of them reaching out to hire you. And then the final element of color theory and consumer psychology we'll be covering is the use of color for your website's calls to action, or CTAs, as I'll refer to them. So more times than not, you're going to notice that a website uses a contrasting color for their CTA, whether it's a button or a hyperlink on the page, in order to draw the attention of their web visitors. So a CTA button with high contrast is proven to help with higher conversion rates across all industries. Not only does the high contrast help with visibility, but it's also going to catch the eye of your potential client more easily. You might also be wondering if there's a particular color that works best for your CTA. And while there has been some research on red versus green, the data is ultimately inconclusive about this. So instead, it's best to just look at what's going to have the best contrast based on your current color palette. So for example, this color is going to be whatever is a complementary color or a triadic color on the color wheel. So going back to our example about maybe having that Bulldog Family Law website that's all red, you're not going to also want your CTA to be red. Maybe that's the instance where your CTA is green because that's a little bit more in contrast. And lastly, whatever color you choose for your website's CTAs, it's best to just be consistent with that choice. This is because you're helping to build a logical association with your CTA for your web visitors. And if all of your buttons are red, for example, this is a color that you reserve just for your calls to action, then it's going to help your visitors to associate that red with the action that you're encouraging them to make. And now that you're familiar with color theory and consumer psychology, let's review some color theory for common colors that attorneys use for their websites in this next part of the presentation. And we'll just be going through these briefly as we explore these. So the first one we have is blue. Blue tends to be versatile in website design. It's often associated with feelings of trust, wisdom, success, and confidence. Blue tends to be a frequent choice among attorneys, and lighter shades of blue tend to elicit sort of a soft and calming energy, while the shades of darker blues can represent integrity and seriousness. Red is a color of passion and energy, making it another common choice for legal websites. Red is useful for attracting the attention of web visitors right away and then evoking feelings of power and urgency. So those brighter shades of red are going to help convey boldness, while darker shades elicit endurance and leadership. Then we have green, which gives a sense of nature, health, and creativity to website design. It's also going to evoke feelings of stability and abundance, and it's the third most common color choice for law firm website design. Light green is going to help symbolize youthfulness, while dark green can represent determination. And then lastly, we have yellow and orange, which can evoke feelings of enthusiasm and creativity. They can also be effective for attracting the attention of your website visitors. However, the issue with yellow and orange is that it can be difficult to read on screen without the proper hue or contrasting accent colors, which can be difficult to control from your end depending on or considering that your web visitors are on a range of devices. And lastly, let's briefly review some tips for making cohesive design choices with color on your law firm website. So beyond the psychology of your firm's color choices, it's important to consider how these colors are going to work together online. So as I mentioned a few slides back, a harmonious visual experience is going to encourage web visitors to engage with your website content and get in touch with your firm. These design choices will also help you make better, more informed decisions in your overall digital presence. So the first design choice that color can affect is your client persona. Understanding your ideal client persona is going to help you choose the primary color for your website design. Consider the personality of your ideal client and then the emotions that you intend to elicit with your website's design. So for example, an estate planning practice might go ahead and choose a darker hue of red for their primary color to help give it a sense of tradition, power, and professionalism. This is going to help them project an image of authority that's going to attract potential clients with a greater intent to hire. Another important design factor is, of course, the readability of the text on your website. I would say that's a majorly important design factor. Using high contrast colors is going to make it easier for potential clients to read your website content, of course, and most firms tend to use a dark text against a white or light background. In addition, darker hues tend to attract attention first and are best for page headings. And then next, and we've touched on this briefly in another slide, but accent colors can work to complement your website's dominant color choice and solidify your firm's brand personality. So a good rule of thumb is to choose a primary color with two complementary colors to build a complete color palette. The primary color will be the main color on the majority of your web pages, while those complementary colors will be used for things like the calls to action, your navigation menu, headers, hover effects, and other sort of secondary design elements. Lastly, to create a cohesive look for your firm's website, I encourage you to even consider the colors in the images used in your website. That's because the images tend to be a focal point on any web page, and if those images have colors that are harmonious to your website design, this can actually work to enhance the visual appeal overall of your website. And while there are likely several colors in any given image, you can just go ahead and focus on the primary color of the image to determine if it's fit for your website. And finally, I'll note that it's important to be consistent with your color choices throughout your website to make it more user-friendly and attractive. You want to stick to a select few colors for your palette and then use these in the same fashion across all of your web pages. So for example, if you were to choose a particular contrast color for your call to action, you're going to apply that choice everywhere that call to action appears on your website. This also applies to colors used for clickable links, any sort of headers, and other repeating elements to visually guide readers through your written content and through your website. Color plays a significant role in how we interact with brands and businesses, and it's essential to consider how color is going to help you target your ideal client online. And whether you're looking to build a new website or if you're just considering making some changes to your existing website, it is important to take some time to carefully choose a color palette that best speaks to your potential clients and that ideal client. So of course, your firm's website is the foundation of your digital marketing strategy, and a high quality and modern website is going to be that first step to targeting your local ideal client more efficiently and affordably. What we do is streamline the technical and digital marketing aspects of managing your firm's website, and our platform is super simple to use and it puts you in control of your digital marketing. What you see on the screen here are just some of the ways Lawlytics can help you achieve your marketing goals. But I also want to take you through a quick tour of the technology so that I can show you around a bit. And if you have any questions at any point of the tour, you can just drop those in the chat for me. The first thing I want to show you is actually not part of the technology. It's going to be this site builder tool that we have for you all that gives you an opportunity to kind of play around with our website design options and see how the website could look for yourself with your firm's branding, your name on it, your logo, and choosing certain layouts, fonts, things like that. But what's important about this for in relation to today's webinar is that there's this color section when you're designing a website in your toolbar, or maybe you need to reset it. Oh, I'm having a technical difficulty. Maybe Oh, maybe that's just my end. Sorry about that. But if I were to choose these options, typically I have a pop out that has all of our available color palettes. And so my point is that Lawlytics, while you can choose any colors you want, of course, we do offer still color palettes that are already proven and they're tested to perform well with potential clients on or online and on search. So those are kind of like preset for you. If you wanted to choose from a color palette, maybe you're just starting out with your firm and you're not sure what color choices make the most sense for your branding. So you can kind of play around with the color palettes that are already designed to work cohesively, as we discussed. And that was just something that I wanted to show you all a little bit around, but I'm having issues with loading it. But if you wanted to check out the site builder for yourself, I'm going to go ahead and drop this in the chat for you all. If you wanted to check this out, again, you can kind of play around with it, put your branding in it, choose layouts, fonts, colors, images, whatever. And then I'm going to take you over to the dashboard. So this is the Lawlytics dashboard. This is the landing spot if you have a website with us where you can go to make any changes to your website. These are all your shortcuts to get to the content library, make a new blog post, add a new page, get to our blog pages, our blog posts. Anything that you need to do to your website, you can access through this dashboard. And so, for example, if I had a website here, or sorry, if I had multiple websites, these would all be hosted here. And then when I want to make any changes on a website, all I do is click into whichever website I'm looking to make an edit on. And then I'm brought into this sort of back end of my website. Everything that's on the left is essentially what's just my navigation menu on the front end of my website. And then on the right here is the content that is on each of those pages. So here you can see that's just my homepage content, and then maybe about our firm would have some content in here, or like my case results page, my estate planning page. As I'm clicking through all of these tabs on my left, I'm able to immediately access the content that is featured on the front end of that page and make any sort of edits very similar to a word processor. So if I need to make any edits, add images, video, click to call phone numbers, links. We now have a new Calendly integration. So if I wanted to add my Calendly shortcut to this page and have people schedule their consultations, I can do all of that on this dashboard right here. And then I'll just show you kind of what this looks like on the front end. So for example, everything that we were looking at on the left is what is our navigation menu up top here. And say that I am doing really well with my criminal defense practice area, and I'd like to feature that a little bit more predominantly on my website in front of this estate planning. All I'm going to do on the back end is click and drag this criminal defense practice area above my estate planning. And then right away when I go back to my front end, that's already updated for me. All I had to do was drag and drop. I didn't have to do any technical back end coding or anything difficult like that. So that's just something that our attorneys tend to really enjoy about the ease of our technology. I'm going to show you one more thing, which is creating a piece of content using our content library. So say I wanted to create a new page, I have the option to create a totally blank one, or I can choose from a content template. So this is our content library. It is a library of over 300 practice area topics that have been professionally written and they are optimized for search engine performance. We have 20 practice areas right now, and like I said, a little over 300 practice areas, but we're actually growing this on an ongoing basis. So as you click through each practice area, we have a set amount of practice area topics, but then you can also request new ones on demand, which is another feature that attorneys really enjoy because it helps them, be a little bit more involved in what we are offering to members. But I want to take you through creating a piece of content with this library. So say we were in criminal defense law. these are all my practice area topics that I have to choose from. They're all categorized. And I can kind of see a snippet of what each of these are about. But let's talk about this FAQ page. FAQ pages are some of our best performing content in the content library because these tend to have a lot of good kind of buzzwords, SEO words for search engine performance. But when I click into a topic card, right away I can see how it's been optimized for search. So I have over 10 link opportunities, it's got optimized subtitles, it's a top 5 DOI defense page, and it's a high converter page. And then on the right, I see the preview of the content, but then everything that's in blue is what I'm going to be customizing in my next step. So I can kind of preview this content, see if it's something that I would like to customize and put on my website. I'm going to go ahead and use this template. And then right away you see that everything that was in blue has already been auto-populated for me, because when I went in previously and edited a piece of content for myself, I was able to click this checkbox and save my entries. And then so the next time when I'm creating a new page, I can go ahead and skip this step, and I'm saving even more time publishing this piece of content. The only thing I have to fill in, which I guess I hadn't filled in before, is this drunk driving acronym. And then when I go to complete, I'm brought back to that back end where then I'm going to finish customizing this piece of content before it's ready for my website. So I need to change the title, figure out what the navigation title is going to be, what my parent page might be. Maybe I'll put it under criminal defense. And then I can again add images, videos, click to call phone numbers, anchor links, my Calendly integration, maybe a table or a grid. I can also check out this light bulb, which is going to give me content suggestions and provide some more tips on how I can kind of just take this piece of content to the next level if I'm looking for an extra unique piece of content that's going to perform really well for my website. So maybe things like state-specific criminal laws, so I can be more targeted with my marketing efforts, or highlight a specific qualification of myself to show that I am the right choice for them, or maybe get specific about my legal fees if that's information I wanted to provide. All of those are great suggestions. And then as I click them off, it will save my progress if I wanted to come back and finish that list later on. And then when I'm finished with a piece of content, all I need to do is click publish, or maybe I can save it as a draft for later. But if I click publish, I have to correct something. So do that. So if I click publish, then it is already available for me on the front end of my website. Again, no coding, it's been properly formatted for me, and I was able to do that in less than just a couple minutes. So that's just a little bit about our content library and just a little bit into our platform. This was a super surface little tour of our platform. If there's any questions that you have or anything that you want to see in depth, I do encourage you all to schedule a demo with us, or just get in touch any of the ways that you see here. We'll be happy to take you through a more in-depth tour, show you all the things that this technology can do for you, and show you the designs and whatnot, and maybe some examples. But yeah, that's the end of the presentation today. If you do have any questions about having a successful website with Lawlytics, or again, if you'd like to see a demo, please feel free to reach out, and we will get back to you as soon as we can. But thank you all for coming out, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.